I mean, the Riyhad Festival has been obviously a really big piece of the news in the last couple of weeks, and it's one that when the situation started, I was like, I would go to Saudi Arabia. All right, it's another edition of KFC Radio on the Barstool Sports Network. I am flying solo. Jackie's out. Feitelberg is out. So kind of like an old school Kevin Clancy show or Mail Time episode. You're riding with me. We're going to talk Taylor Swift, Mark Sanchez, the Jets in general, a few things on the docket today. We're going to begin with Taylor Swift because she's the biggest thing in the world and has taken over the internet with the amount of hate she's getting and then her fans defending her. And I can't escape it. My algorithm is like completely consumed. The last time I saw something like this, it was the Kendrick Lamar halftime Super Bowl show. When if you said you didn't like it, you received like dissertations and theses from professors telling you why you're like dumb and ignorant. This is almost the opposite of that. People hating on it. So got to start off here with Taylor. I know there's a bunch of people who are like, I don't want to hear about Taylor Swift and we don't care. Who cares? First of all, she's the biggest artist in the world. I like music. I love discussing the music industry. So this is a huge piece of our culture right now. Also, what's going on with her, the hate and then the defending, the parasocial versus the arguments that are being turned into politics and like cultural debates. It's much more indicative and emblematic of kind of what's going on the internet in general. And my theory is that Taylor Swift is the new Donald Trump. So if any of this stuff, if you think you don't really care, you don't know her music, don't care about her music, that's fine. But there's a much broader discussion that has a lot of implications that are way more far-reaching than just are you a Swiftie or are you not. So let's get into it. Taylor Swift, The Life of a Showgirl is out. The reaction to Life of a Showgirl is like everything that's wrong with the world and the internet at this point. And I'm at the stage where I think Taylor Swift is the new Donald Trump. Taylor, TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, is now Taylor Derangement Syndrome. The reaction to this album is so overwhelming. I can't escape it. I mean, I know how algorithms work. If you watch one thing, it feeds you more of it. But, like, my entire feed is Life of a Showgirl. 99% of it, people just absolutely hating it. And I realize she's the new Trump. Like, if you really break it down, she is so popular, powerful, influential, important, that she has created this divisive world that is very, very similar to politics. On the one hand, you have her deranged, diehard fans, the Swifties. I think of Taylor Swift fans and Swifties as two very different things. Taylor Swift fans have like been there from the beginning, been listening for like 15 or 20 years now, however long it's been, and love Taylor Swift. I think Swifties has now become a term for the last 5 years, let's call it. Once the Scooter Braun thing happened and she went on this crusade to regain her music and re-record her music, it went from just being like a fan of this person to like a crusade where people were riding for her. And rightfully so. She got like her music basically stolen from her and she was being, especially as a female, she was being bullied by men and a lot of unfair shit happened. And it became this like cause. Taylor Swift became like a cause to root for. And that created a group of really, really diehard fans that has now spiraled into, they're the deranged parasocial freaks who speak for her and put words in her mouth and defend her to the death, and she can do no wrong. That's the one camp. The other camp are the haters. And these are people who have hated Taylor Swift forever, already had hate in their heart for her. They don't think she's talented enough. They don't think that she deserves the money or the success that she's achieved. These are people that like come to the internet wanting to argue about politics or sexism or racism or consumerism or whatever other major topic, and they're using Taylor Swift as kind of like the catalyst to do that. And these two sides, by being so like passionate in their beliefs, fuel the other one. Like, the Swifties can't comprehend that there are people that don't like Taylor Swift. And the haters can't comprehend that there are people obsessed with her. And that only builds each side to fight over this woman and their music, but what it really has, like, come to represent. And And it's just gotten like absolutely fucking crazy. The discourse on this album was like, we're not talking about music anymore, right? Like, clearly you guys have taken her and her music to symbolize something that is apparently much bigger or more important, because the passion that people are feeling for this, you can just tell that these are people who hated her and are preying on her downfall. And for the first time in a long time, they see a little bit of daylight. Like, there's a crack in the door and they want to run through it because they haven't been able to. I mean, she's been bulletproof for the last, 5 years with success and coming out on top, and Kanye and Kim, and like all of her enemies turn out to be the assholes, and she ends up defeating them. And there's been it's almost like as a Jets fan rooting against Tom Brady and the Patriots. Like, eventually I was like, I bend the knee. Like, I can't, you win. But these people, the deranged weirdos on the other side, they won't bend the knee, and they will take every chance they can to tear her down. So when there's an album where she talks about Travis Kelce's dick, or some of the words aren't, up to snuff, they are like, oh, that means she's unintelligent, she's stupid, she's a fraud, and doesn't deserve any of this. So when there's like some words on the album that are not up to snuff, they're like, this is my chance, this is my opportunity. The amount of videos I saw of people being like, just, clinking champagne glasses, being like, it's finally over, we win. Like, that is like an indication to me that you're not just talking about the music or the words. Like, this has become a personal vendetta for you for one reason or another. And what bothers me the most is this performative feminism from a lot of women online that I'm seeing, because most of these videos, there's some guys in there, but it is a lot of women on women crime here. And this performative feminism of people who create an image in their mind of who they think Taylor Swift is, or who they think she should be, who she should date or get married to, what her lyrics should be, what she should be talking about at this age. And then if Taylor doesn't do that, it's viewed as she didn't live up to that. She didn't live up to that standard. She's failed. She's bad. She's wrong. All for something that you have created. If Taylor Swift said something like, if I'm 30, 33 years old, 35 years old, and making an album like Life of a Showgirl, like, and then she went and did it, and it was a standard she set for herself that she failed to achieve, that's one thing. This is like it's fan fiction. The people who have painted her politically now as MAGA? What? Donald Trump openly hates her and views her as like one of his biggest enemies. And now everyone's like, this is Republican coded. She's MAGA. Because why? Again, she's openly spoke out against Donald Trump, was one of the biggest Kamala supporters. I'm voting for her. Trump hates her for a reason. She's marrying the poster boy for the Pfizer vaccine. The number one thing that the MAGA world hates is the COVID vaccine. She is marrying the guy who was probably the most outspoken, biggest star to be like, get the vaccine. But because he's on a football team with a quarterback married to a woman who liked to tweet about Donald Trump, now she's a right-wing conservative extremist. That is so batshit crazy. Almost as crazy as deciding that she's like better than Travis Kelce or shouldn't be with him. Who the fuck goes around making up who other people should be with? Because he's not intellectual enough? He's not like cerebral or smart? I don't know. I mean, yeah, listen, just it seemed like Travis Kelce is just kind of like a meathead guy. Yeah, but we don't really even know him. And even if he is just like a dumb old meathead, but he loves her and treats her right, and he's successful in his own right and comes from a different world and makes her happy and dicks her down with his fucking 9-inch dick, be happy for the girl. Isn't that what feminism is all about? Feminism is about doing you, being successful, not letting anybody stop you, particularly men, and she is the definition of that. But what? I don't know. They don't like her music. They don't like the way she looks. They don't like her boyfriend. They don't like whatever it is. So now they're invalidating everything Taylor Swift has done. Same thing with the lyrics, right? The lyrics of Life of a Showgirl. If you want to talk about the standard that Taylor Swift has set for herself as a lyricist and a songwriter, and then say that I think the words from The Life of a Showgirl don't live up to her intellectual songwriting capabilities, fine. I think that's a little bit overstated on this album. But yes, of course, in general, it seems like it's a little more of a fun, poppy, happy album. And so it's not what we're experiencing in the past. But now people take that and they're like, Taylor Swift is uneducated. She is not smart. She's a bad songwriter. That, I think, applies if there's been a ton of this, right? Like, when I look at Drake's music, a big criticism of Drake is that he's 40 years old and he's still just rapping and singing about women and fucking girls and, like, getting his heart broken and breaking hearts. Like, it's the same thing. And when you're in your 20s, that's, like, the life you're living, and that's fine. And when you're 40, people start to go, hey, is there anything else here? For someone like Drake, that makes sense. That's his whole body of work. He churns out albums every year, and they're all the same, and they're getting worse, and it's starting to get, like, immature and embarrassing. That's not Taylor Swift. This is the outlier. This is the deviation. It's not like we were on, like, a 10-year Taylor Swift hiatus and then got this album, and it's like, whoa, that was it, you know? She's churning out albums at an insane rate, one of the most prolific, artists out there. And everything up and, like, at least recently, was, like, in-depth poetry and, like, heart-wrenching, angsty, lyrics and themes and the vibe. And now one album after, 3 or 4 in the last few years is more, lighthearted, like I said, poppy, funny, crass, sexual. And that means, it invalidates everything. What? I just don't get that. This is the extreme. This is the outlier. This is the difference. It's not really the indicative. If she did this like 5 more times, I could understand. People are starting to be like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? One album, and by the way, I do believe that's understated. Like, I read a review, a positive review. I'm going to read it quickly. It's a little bit long, but it says, I think we're missing the big message with this album. And they go on to say, The Life of a Showgirl is a meta-commentary on the exploitation of and manufacture of young talent in the pop industry. Taylor Swift uses direct musical nods and near copies of songs from child stars like the Jackson 5 and the Jonas Brothers to highlight how performers are molded, controlled, and presented as polished products, while tracks like Elizabeth Taylor function as a symbolic reference to iconic child stars and showgirls, emphasizing the pressures placed on young performers. Elizabeth Taylor was a manufactured child star. By officially crediting George Michael on father figures, she signals that she can acknowledge interpolation when she chooses, while leaving other nods uncredited, underscores how child performers, and even artists like herself, can be taken advantage of. The recurring Pinocchio imagery reinforces the puppet on a string theme, highlighting the loss of autonomy inherent in early stardom. Songs like Wood, with their explicit content, are designed to make listeners uncomfortable, dramatizing the clash between child performers and adult pressures. Through the showgirl archetype, Taylor performs the performance itself, dazzling, party, blah, 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 while lyrics in Wishlist hint at the passing of the mantle to Sabrina Carpenter as the next showgirl, uniting the album's exploration of artistry, control, exploitation, and succession into a cohesive, layered statement. They go on to talk about Fate of Ophelia invokes vulnerability. Opalite is a lab-created gemstone, which symbolizes the fragile, manufactured brilliance of performers. Now, I think that's a little extreme in the other direction, but why is that not being explored or talked about or propped up online? It's because right now hating on her is what gets you attention and what people want, because they don't want to see someone at the top do better and get more and be heralded even more. What they want is you to be knocked down a peg. But the whole point of music and art is always the interpretation of it. And you can interpret it this way or that way. You can look at Wood and be like, this is just a fucking song about her boyfriend's dick. Or you could be like, it's designed to make you uncomfortable because a lot of the album is about child stars and I'm going to juxtapose those two, blah, 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 blah. You can, view it through whatever lens. And that's, to me, usually always the best sign of art is when it can be enjoyed simply and it can also be enjoyed on like a deeper level. And again, maybe she meant to do all that. Taylor Swift always seems pretty deliberate. I would say it's far-fetched for me to think that a girl who was always like so deliberate about every move would then just go willy-nilly and do all this like on a whim. I think that there was probably a reason or a cause behind it. I think people often look into things too much and give too much credit. But why is that not, the other half of this discourse? We kind of went through this with Kendrick Lamar when almost the opposite way. When I and some other people said, I didn't really like the halftime show. I didn't think it was that great. All of a sudden, we're being lectured on, American slavery and 400 years of oppression. And I'm like, yo, it's not that deep, And it's a lot of those same people look the same and seemingly the same type of accounts that are now on the opposite side of this, saying that they don't like Taylor Swift. And I have to believe that comes from a place of just jealousy and insecurity, or I want the world to look and be a certain way. And if she contributes to the opposite of that, she is bad, wrong, stupid, dumb, and the end of the world. And I think it's only, unfortunately, going to get worse for her. And this is a problem that goes well beyond just like the music in this situation, but she's getting like slammed by a lot of people for the trad wife trend. Trad wife meaning like traditional wife. A lot of women online who live a very old school lifestyle and are very proud of it, where they're like, I'm the mom, I'm the wife, I stay at home, I take care of the kids and the family. My man is like the earner, he runs the family, I defer to him, and this is the way it's supposed to be, and I love my life. I think that's a bit extreme, a lot extreme in a lot of cases, and it does seem like women who are like brainwashed or have to be that way or are trapped, and then there's probably other people who are doing it to exploit the trend and gain followers and notoriety and popularity. But in general, the idea that if you settle down as a woman and get married and have kids, that you are now like bending the knee to the patriarchy, and that Taylor, who has been so outspoken as a feminist and like a girl boss, as she said, is now like selling out or giving up. And it's like, she just got married. Like, she just likes this guy and probably will go on to have a family with him. And now if you do any of that, like traditionally, you're now somehow lesser than or in the wrong. And I think that's a big problem in general, like with society. Like, of course, everyone should be independent and should be able to earn and have a career and be, your own autonomous person. But if you want a traditional family unit and you want traditional gender roles, I think you should be able to do that without being labeled as like weak or stupid. And that goes for, the average person all the way up to, the billionaire superstar. Like, let that girl do and live and be happy. That's where I distinct between Swifties and like regular Taylor Swift fans is like, if you actually like this girl and you're beyond and you're more of a fan just beyond like, I like her music and, I like to sing to it. If you like actually care about the artist, you should be happy for her. She's happy. It started when she was dating Travis Kelce. It was like, no, it can't be true. This is a lie. She would never do that, which was kind of a weird reaction in the beginning. But then people grew to be like, oh, actually, he seems like he loves her and like is great for her and supports her and her music and is everything that her other boyfriends weren't. So, like, we're good to go. But that initial reaction is kind of what's happening again with just her, the whole notion of her being married and potentially being a mom and having a family. Although she's openly said, like, I used to think there was a world where Taylor Swift would just disappear into the sunset and be like, yeah, I'm just going to go pop out some babies and I'm done here. But one of her interviews on her rollout, they said, like, is this your last album? And she was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, that's not why people get married. They don't get married to just, like, turn off their brain and stop creating and not do their job. And then when you think about it, like, her whole problem with Joe Alwyn was that she was dating a dude who didn't support her and her work. And now she has someone who does. So the last thing she's going to do is stop doing that. But if she wanted to, she should be able to. Because this is how the world works. People should be able to make their own decisions, and you shouldn't get insanely bent out of shape about it. The idea that like becoming a wife and mom and that maybe being your focus or what you want is somehow a negative is, I think, a pretty fucking big problem in this world. So in terms of her music, though, it seems like there were people out there saying, I prefer Taylor when she's getting dumped, or I prefer Taylor when she's single because I like her music better. That's like so fucking sick to say about someone. It's like, yeah, she's finally happy, so her music is like kind of boppy and funny and sexual. Yeah, you're not some tortured, angsty, depressed, single, I wish I wasn't type of girl. The music's going to change. it's people in comedy go through it a lot. It's like people who are addicts or alcoholics, and they're like, oh, I don't think I can stop because like my comedy will suffer, or I'm negative and skeptical of the world, and if I stop doing that, like I'll lose my humor. I can't just be happy and supportive and funny at the same time. And I think almost everybody who goes through that, if you have enough talent, comes out the other side when they do change their ways, and they're like, oh, actually, I could do that, and I wish I did it much earlier because I was like harming myself or being miserable on purpose or having a terrible outlook on life because I thought that I needed that for my art. That's how the fans are treating it. They're just like, oh, I don't like this album. It's because, or some fans, of course I'm generalizing, but, you're happy now and you're settled down, and so now your music stinks because, like, we don't want to hear you talking about how you're happy or how your boyfriend has a big dick. We want to hear you, suicidal and depressed and single, And another, I don't want to turn this into, I'll do this on Taylor Watch with Kelly and them, but, like, I saw some dude who was breaking down, Taylor Swift doesn't know Hamlet. She's not your English teacher. She's an idiot. She doesn't know. She never read Hamlet because Ophelia, the fate of Ophelia, like her references were not 100% aligned with the idea of Hamlet. That Ophelia wasn't looking for love. She was just looking for her own agency and her own independence, and it had nothing to do with love or finding a man. So why is she equating the two? When it's like, it's a pretty obvious connection of like Ophelia felt like she was being controlled by men and wasn't happy and Ophelia ends up fucking killing herself. Spoiler alert. So if she says, you saved me from the fate of Ophelia, meaning like you made me happy, I'm now living the life I wanted to live and I'm not going to kill myself. If every other reference to Hamlet and her don't align, it doesn't mean she's an idiot. It doesn't mean she didn't read Hamlet. It's like you're just creating fan fiction in order to fit your argument about this person. It's literally just like Trump. It's like the issues and the actual substance of what you're arguing about come a distant second or third or 10th behind your personal preferences or hatred for this person, and you're just going to argue that point no matter what. And there are valid criticisms. Like I said, if you want it to be like the lyrics, while they might have some symbolism and it might be kind of ironic or a reverse psychology thing, but in general, singing about saying girl boss and singing about memes and jokes and dick references and that sort of shit. Yeah, it's not great. But at the same time, that why aren't you focusing that line where she says, like, I picked up the check before it hit the mahogany grain? It's an unbelievable line. Like, you can pick out these things. Opalite is that the whole hook of that is, like, great writing. And, by the way, if every other song on the album, if that was a one-song album or if every other song was just Taylor Swift farting into a microphone, if she gave Opalite to us, that album's good in my mind. That's how much of a bop that is. And I really question you if you listen to that and you can't just like enjoy that, or again, you don't have to like every song, but if your reaction to that is like, oh, she's a Republican bending the knee to patriarchy and you can't just listen to Opalite and enjoy it, we probably will not get along as a person. But there are some valid criticisms, like I said, about the lyrics or the consumerism stuff, like the billionaire stuff. I very much believe in capitalism and make as much money as you can. But I do sometimes wonder, it's like she sells so much merch and alternate versions of everything, and then she puts out the movie and albums every year. And like I can understand some people being like, enough's enough, or like when are you satiated? So there are criticisms of her that are valid. The ones that aren't are like questioning her relationship because you don't like the guy, or creating politics in your head. Or, she's racist because Travis Kelce used to date black women and now is married to a white woman, are just such big leaps in logic that I really have to question anybody doing that. And I question the other side of it, where it's like, if you can't admit that this album's a little different, or if you never think she does anything wrong, I don't know. It's funny. I just feel like Taylor Swift, if like anybody ever talked to her, one side or the other, like I think the deranged fans would realize that she's not, as obsessed with them as that parasocial thing probably weirds her out too. And I think all the haters would realize like she's just a pretty normal girl that has become this icon. If anything, I think Taylor Swift's like charm is that she kind of like stumbles, bumbles, fumbles her way through life. And, people were comparing her to Adele. It's like, oh, this is what Adele was doing at like 24 or whatever. It's like Adele got married early, had kids, got divorced, went through all that. You're going to be a different artist. And now Taylor's like she's in the honeymoon phase, and eventually she'll probably go through the family phase. And God forbid she goes through any sort of struggles. Like, she's going through the process. And that's, I think what's been unique about her is, despite the fact that she is so one of one and so different from like everyone else in the world, she's kind of going through like the regular stuff. She's just like trying to find a boyfriend, trying to find happiness, trying to like do well at work. She has people holding her down. She has, enemies. I think all of that is like part of why she's who she is. But people don't like take that into account when they're like discussing her as a person, like they know her. It's crazy. And I don't think it's going to stop for her. I think it's very similar to politics. Like when people are like, what do we need to do like as a country to like heal or change or be different? I don't know if you can. I think the horse is out of the barn. You have a two-party system, and social media is connecting people that ordinarily would never be connected, and it's creating rivalries and stress and drama and fights that would never have existed. And I don't think you can stop that unless like social media disappears or the two-party system disappears, and none of that's happening. Kind of the same thing with Taylor Swift. Unless she like takes a long break, doesn't sound like she's going to do it. I just think that, there's never been anybody who has really changed their opinion on Taylor Swift based on the discourse between fans and haters. I changed my opinion on Taylor Swift for like a life reason. I was not one of, like, same thing with politics and everything else. I'm like kind of in the middle. Like I was certainly one of the never deranged parasocial fans. Wasn't one of the extreme haters. In the past, I've definitely criticized her. I didn't like her early music. I think that, she's performative at times, like when she wins her 50th Grammy and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened to me. She's a goofy, awkward dancer. And in the past, I've said, like, stop fucking talking about your boyfriends. I've definitely been that guy before. Then I had a daughter. And I watched what Taylor Swift meant to Shay and how much she enjoys her music, sings it, karaoke, sing along, goes down in the basement, gets out her guitar and her little karaoke machine, and belts out the words like she's on stage and has the time of her life. And I appreciate Taylor Swift for that. But I also can really see, like, that I have conversations with Shay where she's like, do you think I could be like Taylor Swift when I grow up? Yesterday, Shay did a lemonade stand. It was the first time she ever did a lemonade stand. So I'm sitting there with her, and I'm texting all my friends. I'm like, if anybody's in town, can you swing by and buy a cup of lemonade? I have my parents drive over. I did a loop around the block, and I knocked on a couple doors of some of the families and friends we're with, and I said, can you pop out? I was like, I'll buy the cup for you. Everyone was very nice, and they said they'll do it. Anyway, I had a long conversation with Shay. I was like, do you know what the word entrepreneur means? And I was explaining to her, there are some people who just get a job, and there are some people who like run the company. And I was saying, you can run your own hair salon. You can run your own dance studio. You can, all of the stuff that she loves and does, like, you can make that your life. And I genuinely have seen, like, as she's grown up, that she looks at Taylor Swift like that. So I was a single dude who just was like judging her based on her music and her appearance and like how she appears to the public. And then when I saw like what her music is capable of and can do and what she means to Shay and probably a billion other little girls and a billion other adult girls and some men as well, I was like, this is awesome. And so my opinion changed of her. I think people can change in that way. I don't think there's ever been someone who hated Taylor Swift and then one of these deranged Swifties was like, well, actually, blah, 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 and the person goes, oh, you're right, I do like her now, or vice versa. Those people are so set in their ways, they're never going to change, and again, that's exactly like the political climate here. So I don't see how it could change for her, and that almost kind of sucks. It's weird. It's like, of course, people would love to be Taylor Swift, and they would love her money and her power and her success. But you kind of become a prisoner of your own success when it's like, all right, this is the life that like I now have to live. Almost sucks in a way. Yeah, like I don't know, if you were to ask me like, would you trade lives with Taylor Swift? It would be like I'd have to think about it. Like there's a lot that comes with that is going very negatively. I think she's probably like totally used to this, and I really wonder if an album like this is like when Reputation came out and. What was the first single? Look What You Made Me Do. Everyone was like, this song sucks, and like, what the fuck is this? And then like 5 years later, it aged. It was ahead of its time, and everyone loves it. Like, I could absolutely see that being the case here. But right now, it is like some heavy, heavy hate. I think she's just prepared for it. She's like, I had to disappear for a couple years because of all you fuckers. Like, I am ready for war. I don't think she's even fazed by this, but it is interesting to see. I was kind of thinking she was like bulletproof and that like she was just on such a heater. It's interesting to watch. Like, even, I know, I'm sure there's a lot of people right now, oh, stop talking about Taylor Swift or not on the show, whatever. But like, it's well beyond just like her and her music and pop star life. And if you're not into that world, but it is interesting to just analyze like what does a successful career mean, and how what does it take for you to like get knocked down a peg? What, you know, when you're on top, if you're going through hate, like it's all, that stuff is all very interesting. I think a lot of people, guys, men particularly, especially like from my demo, will probably view that as just like, that's for chicks, you're gay. But there's a lot of like unique and interesting elements to like her whole career and what she generates from people aside from her, that if you can't like engage or find the interest in that, I don't know, not for you. But yeah, I really feel like it's very similar to the political climate of like, we're not even talking about the songs anymore. We're not like, we're making up talking points about politics and romance and life just to continue to argue. It's crazy. The NFL is in full swing. You got tailgates, packed stands, the bars are going crazy, but getting into the game, actually going, first of all, there's nothing better than doing that, but there's nothing worse than trying to get your tickets, trying to organize it, not spend too much money, make sure, you know, you're in the building and everyone has access to tickets. It's all a nightmare, and that's why you got to use Gametime, the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. You don't have to worry about the prices. You get the best price available. You don't have to worry about anything being fake because everything's guaranteed authentic. You can share the tickets easily, find the tickets easily, and end up getting into the game, into the concert, into the comedy show, the Broadway show, whatever it is, whatever live entertainment you're looking for, Gametime has got you covered. They give the advantage back to fans with amazing deals and amazing tickets in just a few taps. Incredibly easy to use. They have the Gametime guarantee, 100% authentic, and fees are always included. So what you see is what you pay. Whatever the price is on the app, that's what you're going to pay. Nothing hidden, no hikes, no surprises. Everything's the best tickets and the most affordable tickets depending on what you want to spend. As you get closer to the event, prices drop. You can always sneak in at the last minute, or you can get, you know, front row seats and blow a bag, but you're still getting the best price available because you can see the entire secondary market all in one app. If you want to go see the Yankee, well, they'll probably be eliminated pretty soon, so you don't have to worry about that. You want to go see your favorite football team, your favorite band, whoever it is, Gametime's got you covered for the best live tickets in the game. Take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets and any tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and then use code KFC for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create that account. Redeem code KFC for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. As the weather cools, it's time to start dressing. When it's the fall, you know, in the summertime, I'm just trying to like survive. It's like I'm too hot. I'm wearing, you know, shorts and a t-shirt and just trying to live. Staying inside. I'm not even worried about what I look like or what my outfit is. The fall comes around, and then it's time to start dressing. You get your fits off. You're wearing jackets. You're wearing different pants. You can wear everything from a hoodie to a sweater to a long sleeve tee to a quarter zip. All of that on the table when the weather turns, and you can start looking your best. And Quince is the best way to get name brand, stylish wardrobes at an affordable price and in the easiest way possible. They got all the fall staples you need. They have 100% Mongolian cashmere. They have for $60 for a 100% Mongolian cashmere. They got classic fit denim. They got leather. They got suede. Everything you need for the fall. And what they do is they cut out the middleman so they can keep the prices lower, and they pass on all that value to you. They partner directly with ethical factories and top artisans. They don't have any sort of middleman to take their cut, so they deliver premium quality at like half the cost of premium brands. I've got a whole box at home that I've basically ordered everything that I need, all of my staples from Quince. This fall, I'm going to be a Quince man, and you should be too. So layer up this fall with pieces that feel as good as they look, and the price is even better. Quince.com/KFC. You get free shipping and 365-day returns. And it's also now available in Canada. So shout out to everybody up north. You can get Quince too. It's QUINCE.com/KFC for free shipping and 365-day returns. You know, it's interesting. I sat down with Tim Miller, who came by the studio the other day. He's like in the political space. It's very similar. We had Tommy Veter on KFC Radio from Pod Save America. And so I sat down with him, and we were in our studio, but he put it on his feed. It was his show. And I was just kind of talking politics from my point of view of being a pretty uneducated, middle-of-the-road, uneducated in terms of politics, middle-of-the-road guy. And watching Tim, who's a very smart guy and, deeply embedded in the political world, but still I could see that, like, he fully believed everyone at Barstool was, like, hardcore right-wing extremists and the need to, like, almost put out these disclaimers at times, like, I disagree with that guy, but, I agree with that one part of him or that one thing he did, or, I don't like Trump, but, like, he's doing a better job at the border with immigration. Like, the almost the fear to, like, admit those sort of things, or even to just sit down with me. I feel like he felt like I'm going out of my comfort zone, and I'm worried that some of my fans are not going to like this, is the problem. Because it's like, these are normal things. You should be able to have your political beliefs, but also acknowledge sometimes that the other party has good points or did something good, or I don't like that guy, but right now we're aligned on this one issue and we're getting the job done. That's a good thing. Same thing when it applies to pop culture of, like, I love Taylor Swift, but, like, I didn't like that song, or vice versa. I don't usually like her, but I gave that album a listen and I thought it was a bop. Or, her lyrics are usually one way and they're different this time. I don't really care for that, but that doesn't mean she's stupid or racist or, shouldn't be marrying the man she's marrying. Everything in life, whether it's politics or pop culture or whatever your bag is, whatever your scene is just so filled with the inability to acknowledge the other side or what's good or what's bad and be impartial or unbiased. Everyone is so clouded by their own personal beliefs that turn into vendettas. We're applying sports fanaticism, and I said this on Tim's show, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. We're applying, like, the illogical sports fanatic behavior to other things in life. And in something like music, it's not the end of the world because sports and music are kind of the same. It's like, this is something we can just kind of do, like, recreationally for entertainment purposes. Now the discourse has gotten serious and too extreme, but with sports and music, it's one thing to just be like, you're wrong, I'm right, it's good, you're bad. But when you start to do that in politics or in fields that really matter, where, like, it's life and death or quality of life or, the future generations are at stake and all that stuff, that's when, we run into a problem because, as sports fans, like fanatics of anything, you're illogical, you're irrational, you're clouded by, your own biases. And, like, when you start to apply that to the things that matter, you're going down a really bad path, and one that we've been going down for a long time, and I don't think we can reverse. So I don't know where it goes from here. But that interview with Tim was interesting, and I got a lot of very, divisive reaction. There was a lot of people who were like, this is so refreshing to hear. I align with him. Like, I'm middle of the road. I believe in a little bit from each side. I believe not all good, not all bad. And I love hearing this. And then there were the other people who were like, you're a traitor to America for sitting down with this guy and talking to him. So, it is interesting to see that unfold. And I'm very like cautious myself because I've been very outspoken about how I think podcasters and comedians getting involved in politics is, like, the worst thing that has ever happened. And I don't want to be hypocritical. Like, I feel like I should be able to have some of those discussions or go on shows like that without I should be able to speak on that and not be worried about it. But I have seen what podcasting, the influence it's had on the political world. And I'm not really on the level where I can influence the way that some of these, like, top dogs can. So it's a little bit different where I think I can and should be able to speak on that kind of casually, cavalier, like, pretty freely without worrying about the ramifications. But I am cautious about it. Like, we got an offer. I talked to people from Pete Buttigieg's camp, and he's a guy I would love to talk to. I'll talk to anybody. That's, like, one of the things. I will probably talk to almost anybody. Like I remember when Dave went through the Trump thing, like I would have said yes to Donald Trump. I would have, like, in my head, I would like to at least say I would have asked some tough questions or I would have pushed back. But I don't know, sitting in the Rose Garden of the White House, like with the Secret Service around, I probably would have just been like, fuck yeah, Don. So, but I don't think I would pass on those opportunities. I have certain lines. I don't think I would talk to Alex Jones. I like what happened with Sandy Hook really rubbed me the wrong way. I don't think I would do it. I'm sure, there's certain people that I would be like, nah, fuck that. But for the most part, I will hear anybody out or have any sort of compelling conversation with like almost anybody. But you do need to like. Oh, so Pete Buttigieg, I mentioned. Like I think you'd be a great conversation. I think he's an interesting guy from what I've seen of him when he's done other podcasts and what I've seen when he said politically. I'm pretty on board with, or at the very least, I'm like, that seems like a guy that I can relate to. But I've been so, I've hammered the guys who spoke to politicians on the other side. So I can't really necessarily go out there and just like do that. At least I don't think I'm on a level where people would really be upset or call me out for my hypocrisy. But just on a personal level, I know what I've said and like the stand that I took. So I don't want to like undo that by engaging in it myself. So, it's just like a fine line. I would love to do more of those things. I think anytime we have done it, people enjoy it. I think it's the natural progression of like, I'm a 40-something-year-old man. I'm not like deeply embedded in politics, but obviously some of those issues start to like mean more and matter more. And, after a couple decades of just talking about sports and pop culture and stuff, eventually you're not fulfilled by that or you want to talk about more. And so those are the avenues you go down. But it's just interesting to kind of balance that as I've seen like what some of the reaction and some what some of that engagement can cause. Like, I mean, the Riyhad Festival has been obviously a really big piece of the news in the last couple of weeks. And it's one that when the situation started, I was like, I would go to Saudi Arabia. Then, like a couple weeks into the discourse, I was sort of like, all right, maybe I'm wrong on this one. Maybe I need to think it through more. A lot of people I know and respect have said the opposite. And now I think I came out the other side where I was like, yeah, but I think I would still go. Because I think much like the Taylor like argument, like there are sound arguments to be made, and it's when people start to go to the extremes that it pulls me back in the other direction. So like when I first saw it, I said I was in, then started to think maybe I'm out. Then when I saw so many people judging so harshly on the people who did go, it pushed me back the other direction where I was like, well, all right, I think I should still be able to do this if I really wanted to. It's just so much easier to make a decision when you're not the one with the offer. It's easy to pocket watch other people. It's easy to judge their decisions when you're not in their shoes and you don't have the opportunities that other people have. I think the same thing a lot with relationships too and cheating. I mean, I've heard everything under the sun when it comes to like arguments, hating on people who've cheated and relationships, philosophies around relationships, and it's like that when there are people out there, when there are like famous stars who just live a different life than you do and have women throwing themselves or men throwing themselves at them and like opportunities and situations that regular people are never in, it's easy to say like, I would never do that. But it's like, you have no fucking clue what you would do or how you would feel in any of these situations. And I think the same thing applies with, Saudi Arabia. I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's like none of those people really need the money. And this is about the money. I think it's very hard. The latest development was Bill Burr not only doing it, but coming out and being like, it was an amazing experience. Like, I loved it. The crowd was great. I think we need more of this. Like, now that's taking it a step further. I think that's beyond the scope of the contract you signed. I think at least. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the contract includes some straight up propaganda. But, they have Bill Burr. They have a clip. There's a viral clip right now, Bill Burr from years ago. Somebody did a comedy festival for Gaddafi, and he was like, that guy is like killed people, journalists, families, and you're going to just yuck it up and tell some chuckle jokes to that guy for money. And then it's like the record scratches and they cut to him being like, Saudi Arabia was amazing. That's tough. Those are tough. That's tough to navigate and to defend. Dave Chappelle walking away from $40 million in Comedy Central at the peak of his career based on morals and values. At least that's what he says so. And now selling out when he's richer than ever and more established than ever. That's hard to reconcile. But also, if there's fans out there, if there's comics out there, they're just like, I've worked really hard and now I'm in a position to make this money. I'm going to do it. I don't think you should fault people for that either. Or you can, but like the idea of like, writing them off entirely as an act or as a person is what seems extreme to me. Because again, you should be able to like somebody and not and not agree with everything they do. Or, they disappoint you sometimes, so that doesn't mean that they are overall a bad person or need to be like completely excommunicated from your life. It happens all the time with families these days, like people writing off their family members because of disagreement. And it's like, well, when this administration's over or when this political climate changes or cools down or whatever, and now like you don't have your mother, father, brother, sister, husband, wife, whatever, like probably making a pretty bad and rash decision based on like pressure from the internet. But what I thought was very interesting when it comes to the Riyhad Comedy Festival, Tim Miller made this point when I sat on his show. These guys went over for the money, and undoubtedly, I'm sure, I mean, I guess I can't say with certainty, but it sounds like they signed a contract, and I bet there were certain things they're not allowed to joke about. I'm sure it says, like, you can't talk about the royal family, and you can't say certain things about Saudi Arabia as a country and as a political entity. And it seems like all the guys said, okie doke, give me that bag. I'll tell my jokes, and I'll avoid what you told me to avoid. And Tim Miller said, if the Democratic Party had a comedy festival and invited all those same people at the same prices, but it said you can't make fun of Kamala and Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, or you can't, back Trump in your act, all of them would turn that down. They would turn it down, and they would publicly do so they would cite freedom of speech, and they would say, you can't control my comedy. And they don't do it for Saudi Arabia. And I think that's a very interesting point that he brought up. It's something I hadn't thought over. I was like, you're absolutely fucking right that they would never do that. So then I started thinking, why is there a difference? And I think it's because turning down, in this hypothetical world that I've created, by turning down the Democrats, they would still benefit professionally because it would incite such a positive reaction from the right, who is already kind of their established fan base to begin with, that they would love them even more and buy even more tickets and listen to even more episodes, more views, more money by turning down the Democrats. Right now, turning down Saudi Arabia, it gets you a pat on the back. It gets you some people being like, you're one of the good eggs. That doesn't do a fucking thing for anybody tangibly, professionally. Because at the end of the day, this is all about the business. Having Trump on your show, going to the inauguration, talking about these policies, going to Riyadh or turning down Riyadh or whatever. It's all about how am I going to benefit as a comedian, as a podcaster, as an entertainer, as a businessman or woman, as an act. If you can make more money, gain more fans, get more views, get more viral, be more popular by engaging in some of this political stuff, either for or against it, that's why they're doing it. And the day that shifts and changes, if all of a sudden, the next administration, the Democrats win, and there's like an Obama type character where like it's cooler and people are back on board with that, and there was a Democratic comedy festival like I just, that hypothetical I created, they would absolutely do it. It's just which way the wind is blowing and how much can I benefit from it. And not to say that they're all just like soulless shills who like don't believe in anything that they're saying. I'm not saying that, but I do think it's way more about the means to an end than it is the issues themselves. And the comedy festival is like just the most extreme example of that. And I think what was a wrinkle for me was when I saw the videos of Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart and Fluffy, and I'm sure all the other comics, they were engaging in some sort of like customary greeting or something in Saudi Arabia. There was a table of sand, powder, sand, whatever. They put their hands in it, and then they put it up and took a picture. And that was where I was like, oh, that's a little different, because as I kept running through this in my head, I was thinking about getting on a plane and going there, and you do your jokes, and you get the fuck out, and you get your money. And then you realize it's like, no, you're like going there, and you're like embedded in their culture for a week or two, and you're doing their customs, you're maybe wearing their garb and eating their food and engaging with them in a way that's well beyond like I'm just here to do my jokes. And so, and I put that in a video on 1 Minute Man. I was sort of like, this is a little weird. And I don't know, that would probably be, I would love to tell you that the overarching, like, these are people who were a part of 9/11 and violate human rights and chop off hands and kill journalists and women, and that's why I'm not doing it. That is a big part of it. But also it's like the thought of like, I just got to go be like Saudi Arabian for a week and then do all this weird shit. That was almost the literal like behavior is kind of what put me off. And a lot of people reacting in a way that this thing happens on the internet when you've been doing it long enough. You see it. There are like talking points that almost feel like they get distributed. But like one person has an original thought and that goes viral, gets attention, whatever, and everybody latches onto it. And the latest for that, because I saw a bunch of people from all different walks of life and demographics all using the same talking point, which lets me know that like they're just regurgitating and parroting what they heard. Because everyone said something to the effect of, wait until this guy learns about the Hollywood Walk of Fame, comparing the two customs, like in the Saudi Arabian thing where they're putting the hands in the sand, whereas, you know, here in America we have stars who go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and put their hands in the cement when they get their star. My point was not the like literal custom that they're doing. Every culture has customs, and it's actually usually a very good thing when everybody engages in each other's customs and like learns about the other side and the other ways of life, and that's how you have one big melting pot. I'm not talking about it's weird that they put their hands in sand, because yeah, we put our hands in cement, or we have our weird customs as well. The orb that they all put their hands on, like all of that shit is weird when you look at it in a vacuum. I'm not talking about the actual custom. It's attached to a country and a regime that has a history, or at least accusations, of gross human rights violations. That's the problem. It's not the actual custom. It's the fact that you are, by engaging in their customs and doing so with a smile on your face for social media and for a check, you're basically co-signing that country, regime, political party, royal family, whatever, and they have done horrible things. That's the fucking point. So people took that very, very literal when it's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing the thing and eating their food. If I went to a country that we are an ally with and I did all their customs, it's different because I don't feel like I'm inherently co-signing horrendous behavior. And so that's the point. So I feel like even still people miss the actual points when it comes down to these issues. And that's where, you just end up screaming and yelling at each other online, because it's like we're not even really talking about the thing anymore. We're just trying to point out, you're stupid, you're dumb, I'm smart, I'm big, you're little, I'm right, you're wrong, sort of thing. So all these things, I feel like there's kind of a through line when it comes down to it. And it's the internet, which is crazy, because it's like I've reached a point in my older age, and it's kind of a paradox in the sense of like I love the internet. It's afforded me so many opportunities. It's given me wealth that I didn't think I'd ever have. It's provided for me and my family. And I also love it. I like the jokes, the content, the interest and the intrigue and the things that you can learn about and the arguments you can have. Like, it used to all be, I think, a good thing. It's reaching a point where I'm like, this feels very bad for, I think, probably society, but I can't speak for anybody else. It's starting to feel like it's bad for me. And like, what do you do when you made your life doing this? Like, that feels hypocritical. When I'm talking about, I don't want to engage in behavior that I've kind of like spoken against. It's like, I am the internet. I am Mr. Internet. I can't now turn around and be like, the internet's bad. So that's an interesting, and I don't know if that's just age or experience, like doing it for so long and being so deep in it that eventually, I think it's pretty reasonable if you're like chronically online for 15 years and have seen the worst of it, that you would only be bitter and jaded. But and maybe other people are not, as affected by it. But, so age and experience. Yeah, and there's also something coming with age that, like, I read the other day that a male doesn't reach his full maturity until 42, and women are at like 32, which made me almost think that like relationship age gaps are not a bad thing. They should almost be like required. I mean, it's crazy when it's like a 55-year-old with a 19-year-old, but it's like if you're both 32 and one of you has reached your full maturity and one of them is not for the next 10 years, and of course these things are all relative and generalized and just made up by science probably, but that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. And I thought about it myself. It's like I was 30, early 30s when my marriage fell apart and I fucked everything up, and it was like I'm a much different person than I am now at 42, or I wonder how differently I would have behaved, or just weighed the pros and cons and the the consequences and would have been different. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I probably would have done things differently. I can't say if I would have done everything entirely different, but it just would definitively be different. And if that maturity level was there and matching up with someone who was also at their maturity level but at different ages, it almost feels like that's probably a recipe for success if there's a difference between the two. But I as 40 like the last like year, there's been a stark change for me where I like really care a lot less about what other people think. I'm much, much more inclined to just be like, hand up, I was wrong, or I fucked that up. I didn't have the facts. I shouldn't have done what I did. It's kind of freeing in a way to like, I've tried to live that way my whole life, and I've even said it, but deep down, I knew I didn't actually believe it. I wasn't walking the walk. And if I did walk the walk, it was still like forcing myself, like, all right, I'm not going to engage in that argument, or I'm not going to do X, Y, Z, or I'm going to say this online. And now it's the difference between like making myself be that way and just actually wanting to be that way is a world of difference. The need versus the want versus the like actual execution of doing it. But it is pretty in one way, it's like freeing because I'm like, I genuinely feel better mentally and emotionally to like not care about what people think or what people think of me. And if I'm right or wrong, or if I look good or ugly, like good looking or ugly, fat or skinny, like all these things like you worry about online. How does my hair look? What do my clothes look like? Am I saying the right thing or the wrong thing? Did I win the argument? Am I, more popular, less popular? All these things, when it doesn't like consume you, it is very, very freeing. But the other side of that is like, that's the gig, and like caring about some of those things while superficial and kind of not important. Like if you're going to do this world that I'm in, you have to worry about those things. And that's kind of the job. So it's a very interesting thing to balance where it's like, I got to do this and I want to do it to the best of my abilities, but I also can't do it quite the same way when you philosophically and mentally and emotionally like feel very differently. Like I look back at, the arguments I used to have and the stubbornness I used to show and some of my opinions and thoughts, and I'm like, ooh, yikes. And I think people view that as like flip-flopping, or I've heard people say before, like, oh, like 2010, you would hate this. And it's like, I would sincerely hope so. I've always said this. If you are the same at 30 that you were at 20 and the same at 40 that you were at 30 and so on and so forth, like, I think you're doing life wrong. I think you should evolve and adapt and certainly change. If everything in the world around you is changing and you haven't changed, I think that's a you problem. And of course, there are certain things you should stick to your guns on and shouldn't waver. But a lot of the other stuff, almost like entirely, I think, should change. And if not, I think it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. I was looking at my Instagram stats the other day. I was sending it over to like a potential client who wanted the demographic. And it was the first time I looked at it. Let me get it. I'm going to get it exactly right. And it was the first time I ever really looked at, which is probably not a good thing, but it was like the first time I ever really looked at the stats. And so on Instagram, they have your insights, and let me look at insights, views. So how do I get to the demo? Where is it? My audience, they have, so top cities was interesting. Some of these things are just kind of interesting in general. 2.7% of my audience is in New York, number one. 1.2 is in Chicago. 0.9% is LA. And then number 4, the Mount Rushmore of cities, KFC cities, is New York, Chicago, LA, and then Melbourne. Melbourne. So shout out to Australia. Top countries is United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and Australia. Kind of all checks out. But then the age ranges. Wow, this is crazy because it's changed even since I looked at it. So my top age ranges, 25% of my audience is 25 to 34. 23% is 35 to 44. So you're looking at 50% of my audience is 25 to 44. The next highest, 15% of my audience is from 55 to 64. And then another 14% is from 45 to 54. So no, and the reason I bring this up is because when last time I sent this, my 18 to 24 demographic was like 8. It was the lowest of my age demographics. It's not even on my fucking thing anymore. So like the 18 to 24 is less than 15%. And by the way, shout out to me, my audience, 52% men, 48% women. That I'm very proud of that. Being a 50-50 guy in terms of gender, I think is a very valuable, like, unicorn type level. I'm very happy about that. But it was interesting to see that 18 to 24 is just like not really my demo. And in a way, that's a bad thing business-wise because that's a very, very coveted and important demographic. But on the other side, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, no kidding, it's not. Not to say that I don't want or look down on, like, 18 to 24. I think I would love everybody to engage with me. And I think, if anything, I've gone through enough that I hope I could tell 18 to 24 what not to do. I don't think I can really tell many people what they should do. I, for sure, in life can tell you what not to do. So I would love everybody in that demo, but I think if I had to pick, I want to be the person who's, like, aging appropriately and aging with my audience, or they're aging with me, rather, and, it only makes sense. So I thought that was an interesting, you look at Barstool and you think it's young people and, like, a young man's thing, but that's fucking 64-year-olds chopping it up with the 1 Minute Man. 50-50 girls and everyone from 25 to 64. I'm your guy. SAXX is the original pouch underwear since 2006, almost 20 years ago. I wasn't at Barstool. I hadn't been an accountant. I was still in college, and these guys were coming up with the pouch technology, the ballpark pouch, to make sure that your family jewels are comfortable. The most comfortable, high quality pair of underwear out there on the market, and they've been doing it since 2006, so they are the OGs that you go to when you want to make sure you have a pair of underwear that don't ride up, that don't chafe, made of soft material, and they have that ballpark pouch technology with the, like, it's got this mesh pouch. It's like a whole piece of separate, like, underwear. You have the part for, like, your legs and your waist, and then you have a whole other pair just for your dick and balls. That's exactly what you need to make sure you put on your underwear in the morning, and you realize how comfortable they are, and then you never think about them again. The only time you think about underwear if you put on a pair of SAXX is thinking about your old underwear and how badly they sucked and how you will never go back. Once you go SAXX, you never go back. No ride up, no weird adjusting. Everything sits where it's supposed to be. Everything's comfortable, high quality, and affordable. And so you can upgrade your drawers and upgrade your day with SAXX. Visit SAXX.com, SAXX.com, to upgrade your comfort today and realize what underwear is supposed to be at SAXX.com. That's SAXX.com for comfort today. One of the biggest things in the world the last couple of years are the GLP-1s, the Ozempic and the Wegovy, the weight loss drugs that help you regulate your weight and reach your health and weight goals. And right now, Row.co helps you achieve those goals. Row is the best way to get your hands on those the weight loss drugs. First off, doing a free insurance check. They have the insurance checker that lets you know if your policy covers the GLP-1s, is in network or out of network, if you have to pay out of pocket or you can get it covered, and the best way for you to obtain those medications. If you want to see you're covered, you just submit your insurance card, and Row takes care of the rest. No paperwork, no hassle, no waiting on hold or picking up the phone. The free insurance checker gives you the comprehensive report of all the details from your coverage, and then you can make the right decision based on your goals. Here's how much it's going to cost me, or how much it's not going to cost me. Here's how I can get it. Which ones can I get, and does that fit with my goals? And then from there, you can achieve the weight loss that you want. So go to row.co/KFCR and you get a free insurance check. That's ro.co/KFCR to see if your insurance covers GLP-1s for free. Go to row.co/safety for boxed warning and full safety information about GLP-1 medications. Switching gears over here, Mark Sanchez is absolutely fucked. Mark Sanchez, his career and his life are ruined. If you don't know the story, Mark Sanchez, former Jets quarterback, was the last Jets quarterback to make the playoffs and win a playoff game in 2009 and 2010. He was a rookie quarterback along with Rex Ryan. He was like We thought he was the golden child, big arm out of USC. We gave him the Daily News, a star is born, thought he could be a franchise quarterback. Obviously, he was very far from that. He was in a couple years, he was a very good game manager. He wouldn't make mistakes, and every game we would have one moment where we needed a big play or a big throw, and he would make it, and that led us to back-to-back AFC championship games. We thought the future was bright, and eventually everything fell apart and declined, and we were over him and sick of it and done. But now looking back on how bad the Jets have been for the last 15 years, it's like, wow, what I would give for another Mark Sanchez type of run in 09 and 10. So I heard the news broke over the weekend that Mark Sanchez was nearly stabbed to death in Indianapolis. And I made a video right away being like, get well soon, Mark. Like, you're the Sanchez, dude. Like, I long for the days of the success that you had, and despite the fact that it ended poorly, like Jets fans, like we should look back on you with fondness, and of course we hope you get better. And mere minutes go by, and you come to find out that he's in the hospital, critical wounds, in stable condition, getting arrested. That the charges he's getting hit with the charges of assault and battery, unlawful entry of a motor vehicle, and public intoxication. And turns out, and Captain Cons had this theory. He said right away, I bet you Mark Sanchez was so shit-faced, he tried to get into a car thinking it was his Uber, and it wasn't, and there was an argument that ensued, and this guy was an Uber driver or a delivery driver or something. That's why he had a knife on him, because those people are engaging with strangers a lot, dealing with strangers, so they have to protect themselves. And that's how this all unfolded. And he's not wrong. He was pretty damn close. The only difference is that the guy, the victim, was in a box truck, like a big truck. So Mark Sanchez, like, getting into the front seat of a big truck. It's hard to be like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I thought this Toyota Camry was my Uber, not that one. That's a mistake anybody can make. So he was so shit-faced. He ran down an alley, tries to get into this truck. And the driver, I'm sure, says, get the fuck out. They have an argument. Do you know who I am? I'm Mark Sanchez, whatever. They fight, and this guy pokes him. And that's bad enough as is. That story, like, you're already in trouble. Then the details and the pictures come out, and the pictures of this guy, the victim, 69-year-old man, are bad. Bad. He's in a neck brace that's like soaked in blood. You can see it's like soaked up all the blood. It's red. He's got a huge gash in his cheek that apparently went into his mouth, into his tongue, to the point that he had trouble speaking. And he's this old man. He's almost 70 years old. Mark Sanchez, big dude, former NFL player, is fighting him and bullying him, and physically maimed him and scarred him for life. And I hate to say it because it shouldn't matter, but in this culture, things always get bad for you when pictures and videos come out. You hear a story, you read a headline, people say that's bad, and they condemn it, and then you see it in action, and you are fucked. You become the poster child for this because the pictures and the video gives attention and headlines, and so media outlets run with that, and people on social media run with that, and then you just become, it just defines who you are. And, that's it. That's it for Mark Sanchez. Forget about, like, his job and his public perception. Dude's getting hit with felony charges. Like, Mark Sanchez might go to jail. And if he doesn't, it's like your career is done. Your reputation is now this forever. That's got to be one of those things that I don't want to characterize it as just like, oh, he made a drunk mistake, because this one is particularly bad. And I think if you're like the type to start sober or drunk, like start a fight with an old man and like get physical with him, it's probably indicative of like way worse behavior and a pattern of behavior. But just from his point of view, dude's got to be sitting in the hospital. Like at one point, I think it was like clinging to life. Like it was critical condition, get stable, cops in there, you're getting arrested, charges being filed, and he's just sitting there in that hospital bed thinking of that moment over and over. He will think about that every second for the rest of his natural life of just, I had a career as a cushy job as an NFL broadcaster. That's why he was in town. He was supposed to do the Raiders-Colts game. I had this great job, probably making big bucks, just talking about the game I love. had enough of a career where you'll always have that angle of like he's a good-looking guy who can speak on camera and he has experience playing in the NFL. You can do that until you're dead. And all of that down the drain because you were shit-faced and ran into an alley and tried to get into a truck, something that is like entirely avoidable. You were not defending yourself or another person. You were not, wrong place, wrong time. It was unavoidable that you ended up in that conflict. Like, all you had to do was not go down that alley, not get in that truck, not be shit-faced beyond comprehension. And now your life's ruined. I mean, that is tough. Even like Ray Rice is the other big example of when Ray Rice went through his shit, got suspended, it was bad, and then the video came out, and he became, this lightning rod. You almost become the poster child for domestic violence, and what is the NFL doing about it, and what's he going to do about it, and even that, while absolutely heinous, like, relationship, domestic situations are, again, not to, like, create excuses or defend anybody's behavior, but it's just like that's highly volatile, and you get in these situations where it can be both sides toxic to each other, and things like bubble up, and there's one unfortunate incident night where people have had too much to drink, or they say they push the wrong button, and it just escalates to a level that it never should. And when that happens, you're no doubt a piece of shit, criminal. You deserve to be punished. But I can see how those things happen more so than this Mark Sanchez shit. When I say unavoidable, like, yeah, Ray Rice could have, like, not been married to that girl, or not, their relationship. They could have gone to therapy. They could have treated each other differently. Their relationship could have been different. It's avoidable in that sense. But it's not avoidable in the sense that it was his everyday life, and it was the woman he's with, and you can't just, like, not engage with her, and couples fight, and blah, 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 all that shit. Mark Sanchez just literally had to not try to get into that truck. That's something that, like, nobody does, even when they're shit-faced. He decided to do it, and his life is ruined. That's a level of regret that I just can't even, losing your job, maybe even going to jail, certainly the worst parts of that, but there's another level beyond that to me that's just like for the rest of your life, that regret will absolutely eat at you. And the worst part of all, typical Jets fashion, he didn't even win. Like, Jets quarterbacks can't even fucking get stabbed right. Mark Sanchez had that Jets stank on him so bad that almost getting murdered is still his fault, and he's still getting the blame. If that's not the Jets in a nutshell, I don't know what is. Like, our quarterbacks can't win on the field, can't win off the field. Guy can't even beat a 69-year-old man. You got beat up and nearly killed by a senior citizen. Can't get the job done. Even when you're being an asshole, you lose. It's staggering. I mean, this Jets team is the worst of my lifetime. Period. Stop. Do you know how hard that is? To be the worst Jets team in Jets history? How much lower can the bar go? I would have told you the bar is in hell like 20 years ago. And we're still just redefining the levels of bad. There was a moment when they were down like 23-3 at the half or some shit against the Cowboys. Worst defense in the league minus the Jets. Could only muster up 3 points in the first half. Defense just getting shit on. The Cowboys are rolling. And it was interesting to watch. There was this sort of like when I talk about those talking points on the internet where one person says it and then like the world runs with it. In this case, though, it was like everybody had the epiphany that the Jets might lose every single game this year. Like everybody probably by like 2 o'clock was like the Jets are going to lose every game this year and go 0-17. This is the worst Jets team maybe in franchise history. Everybody kind of had that realization at the same time because of that game. It was interesting to watch. Like, it's almost how virality begins or how that like mob mentality latches onto something. We all realized it in the moment. 0-3, you're bad. 0-4, losing in this particular fashion the way they were, you're one of the worst teams ever. I was 11 years old in 96. That's the Rich Kotite 1-15 Jets, which is pretty much widely considered the low water mark for the Jets franchise, worst team in worst season in franchise history. I think this is worse than that. I think they'll go 0-17. Or you can't say that definitively because that's as hard as going 17-0. You usually stumble into, one or two bad games. Even if they win a couple, I think 0-17 is on the table, and I think winning 3 games is not. I think that would be a miracle. So even if, they win 1 or 2 even and are, beat out the 96 Jets, the 1-15 team, I think the way that they're being beat, the way that they're being constructed, their coach, the quarterback situation, and 15, 30, 20, whatever more years of failure makes this different. Even if they literally might win more games or match their win total, I think when you factor it all in, this is the worst football experience a Jets fan, maybe any fan, that defeated Lions team is pretty bad too, but I think this is the worst experience for a Jets fan ever. That's almost like congratulations. That is hard to do. Like I said, it's almost as hard to go undefeated as it is to lose all 17. I didn't think we could ever feel this. I don't want this, but there's part of me that's almost like, hey, we're witnessing history. This is rock bottom. And I don't know, they probably said that in 96. So maybe 20 more years from now, there will be a team that goes 0-18 because they extended the schedule, or they lost by an even wider margin of victory. And maybe it can always get worse. I think that's the lesson here. But in real time, it feels like Aaron Glenn is approaching Adam Gase status, might be the worst coach they've ever hired. There is not a single redeemable aspect of this team. Even when the Jets have been really bad, there was always a moment Darrelle Revis is the greatest corner ever, or our O-line is really solid. You got some Hall of Famers on there. There was always just 1 or 2 people, or a couple talented running backs, or some dynamic kick returners and shit like that. There's nothing. I thought Sauce Gardner would maybe have the Revis type career. He's still a good player, but he's not doing anything that makes you go well, at the very least, you can just watch Sauce Gardner lock these guys up and, take care of one half of the field. There's nothing. There is not one thing that is worth your time as a human being on this planet Earth. You could be the laziest, most boring, untalented, unsuccessful piece of shit human on the planet Earth, and you still should not waste your time with this Jets team. And that's another thing that's come with age. The Mets are in my blood and a real sickness for me that I can't get rid of. I can get rid of the Jets. I don't think I can do this much more. I don't think I'm already at the point where I'm I am not wasting my Sunday, a huge chunk of my Sunday afternoon for these guys. I was doing a lemonade stand with my daughter. That was a great moment. I had a great father-daughter moment that I will probably remember and cherish for the rest of my life, watching her so excited to sell a cup of lemonade a few times. And there's a world where a few years ago I would have been Daddy's got to work, and I would have sat on the couch and watched that godforsaken team just so I could spew some talking points about them. And guess what? You can do the talking points without watching the Jets. They're the same thing every fucking time. And I really don't think I can do it much longer. I say that, and I probably I will continue, especially with the job that I have. But if I was a regular fan and there was no responsibilities associated with it or no opportunities, even when my teams are bad, it's I'm whipping up another goddamn Jets shirt right now. We have a series of goddamn Jets shirts where the plane that the Jets just keeps getting more and more fiery and broken. I have the final one. I've decided this will be the last one. I'm going to put it on sale. So even when the teams are really bad, I'm I can do something. I can use this. I can benefit from this. I can make some money for the company, and I can give the fan base something to commiserate with. If I was just a regular-ass person, there is no fucking way I would even think about the New York Jets for at least another 5 years, because there's no end in sight. The quarterback stinks, and it's not Justin Fields' fault by any means. I do not put any blame on him. The coach sucks. The coordinator sucked. The GM sucks. But it all goes back to the owner. It's Woody Johnson. He's got to go, and until he does, it's never going to change. And that, as a loser fan, that's the real difference. I used to say, if you're a Yankees fan and Yankees and Giants go together, Mets and Jets go together in New York. And I used to say if you mix and match those, you're a gypsy and you can't be trusted. The people who are Yankees, Jets, or Mets, Giants. And what I always said, my problem with them was like I take Clem, for example. I was like, and this was when the Giants were good and winning Super Bowls, because right now being a Mets, Giants fan is almost just as bad as Jets, at least in the last few years. But I said to Clem, how can you be a Mets fan when the calendar is, here, you're a Mets fan and you are negative and you're pessimistic and we're losers and you're the little brother and inferior. That's your personality. And then the calendar flips and it's fall and you become a football fan and you're the big bad New York Football Giants and you're Eli Manning who took down the dynasty and slayed the dragon, and you carry yourself with this swagger. And that was always the weird thing about mixing and matching the teams in New York, is like, I have a sports fan personality, and that is all my teams suck and I'm a loser and I'm trying to get to the promised land. And that's fall, spring, summer, winter, every season, all year round. That's who I am. And I was always like, how can you be 27 rings Yankees fan and then be a lowly Jets fan? Just never computed to me. Now, as a Mets Jets fan, I'm starting to see how that works, because as bad as the Mets were and disappointing as they were, now that the Mets have ownership and management in place that I trust, there's a big difference between hating on the franchise because it's like, you guys are cheap or you're doing things the wrong way and you're never going to achieve the success that we want as fans, so fuck you. That's a different level of hate versus, I want this team to win and they're losing games. You put together a good team and they're just not reaching their full potential and disappointing you. Those are two very different things. And that's almost how it feels as a Mets Jets fan, where we used to be in the same boat with terrible ownership and incompetent franchises that'll never give us what we want. I'm starting to feel like the Mets, they might not ever win, but I know that they are being run in the right way to do so. And the Jets are not. And I think I'm starting to get to that point where it's like, in the spring, I can be a level-headed fan that says, you're doing everything right. You're doing everything for the right reason. You're not being cheap and worrying about the bottom line. You're putting out the product that fans deserve. Whether or not they achieve it, we don't know. It's very different than Woody Johnson being the same old goddamn Jets for the wrong reasons, doing the wrong things, and the same results over and over again. So I think I'm reaching a point where I'm almost like one of those gypsies where I'm going to be this way as a sports fan in the spring and summer, and God willing the fall. And then for football, it's just entirely different because I can't do it anymore. I can't, as a full-grown adult, rationalize being that stupid and irrational and illogical and letting it ruin like my day, week, month, and life anymore. To tie everything back to the conversation we've been having, when I spoke to Tim Miller, he was like, it seems like so many people at Barstool probably would have been Obama voters and now never considered Kamala, and the party lost them as a supporter and as a voter. I feel like I'm in that territory with the Jets, where it's like, you're losing the fan base. It's not, in a weird way, having fans that hate you is better than indifference. Obviously, you want to be good, you want fans to love you, but if you're having a bad season, you still want fans that are so passionate and care so much that they're screaming and yelling and calling the radio and living and dying, but dying every week. Now it's like, I don't care. I don't care. I know what the outcome's going to be. I used to dream of the outcome being different, and that's what fueled me. And I'm like, we're never going to get there. And why am I going to put myself through this? And I think if I'm going through it, there's a lot of fans going through it. You're losing season ticket holders. You're losing viewers. You're losing supporters, merch, fandom, perception, all of that. It's bad. It's really fucking bad. And I can't see it ever changing. Much like politics and Taylor Swift, the New York Jets are never going to change. All right, almost ready to wrap up here. But I mentioned how when the Mark Sanchez news broke, I quickly ran and made a video. I made that video from the basement of the Library Bar in Ohio State. We went out to Columbus for the weekend. Una and I were slinging that Midnight Bean, the first stop on the Midnight Bean 3 Bean Gang tour, where I'm going to go around the country, make a few stops in certain markets, certain schools, certain cities, to preach the good gospel of espresso martinis and the 3 Bean Gang. It was a cool experience because Midnight Bean is interesting, man. I've done I've done a couple drinks in my life in the sense of like Barstool mostly has sold ad deals or come up with products and has asked me to promote them. Pirate Water was a good example. It's like, we want to get into this like energy party drink type of thing. And they asked me to do it along with Brianna and maybe a couple other people at Barstool. And my initial reaction was like, I don't drink drinks like this, and I'm an old man. I don't think this is a good idea. But hey, if Brianna's doing it, she's a rock star, and it'll probably be a successful product. And also, I'm a company man. If you want me to do it, and the money is there, like, that's business. Whistle Pig was another one. Whistle Pig was a much better one. Amazing bourbon, whiskey, rye, and they sponsored us, and that was a good fit. But those were like ad deals and business that came about the company, and they said, who are we going to do this with? Who are we going to align with? Let's do it with KFC Radio. Midnight Bean is like my drink. It's partnered with a distributor and like a liquor company, but like it's not just an ad deal that came across my desk. Here are your new ad reads. This was like a project and a business and something that I like want and am in control of. So it's different in that regard. What has always been the issue with all of these things has been distribution. Getting it into stores, getting it legalized, or I guess not legalized, but like approved in every state for distribution is always a big deal. Pirate Water was available in like a few states. I think Whistle Pig was like available in like 25 states, but like there was never, they were available in a decent chunk, but they never even had visions of being nationwide because for one reason or another, business, politics, logistics, whatever. Midnight Bean is available nationwide. And so when I was first developing this, I was like, great, like finally we've checked the box of distribution. Now I just got to do my thing and spread awareness and engagement and talk about the drink, and the distribution will be taken care of. So Midnight Bean being available nationwide, I thought meant like it's just going to be available nationwide. It's a big hurdle to get over the fact that it's even possible to be in all 50 states, or at least 48 states, I think. But that's still a very far cry from it's possible, but is it going to be on shelves? Is it going to be in bars? And that's where we're at right now, is trying to get to that point. And so it's a new problem. It's a new take on an old problem that I've had to deal with before, that I thought was going to be like easy peasy. And I'm realizing even if you have a major company backing you and it's approved in every state and available everywhere, getting the distributors, owners of liquor stores, bartenders, all those people to see it, think it's good, and stock it or provide it, buy it, is a very different thing. So that's where we're at right now, is like and it's an interesting spot because I genuinely know in my core that the Midnight Bean Martini is a high quality product that virtually everybody who has had it has loved it. The worst reaction I've gotten is somebody being like, I just don't like espresso martinis, so I'm just like, no matter what this tastes like, I'm not going to fuck with it. And there are some people who say it's a little too sweet, which I understand. That's a big thing about espresso martinis. Some people like them creamy, some people don't. Some people like them bitter, some people like it sweet. And I was trying to, find an in-between that would kind of satiate both sides. And so if you don't think, if you think it's too sweet, whatever, that's fine. But, it's a drink that I like genuinely like and believe in and regularly drink and use. And that's more that I can say for some of the other alcohol products I've pushed in the past. So being passionate and like really knowing that I got something here, and the big hurdle being like, I just need it to be in stores, is so frustrating. I guess it's a good thing because it's not the ultimate problem where it's like, I got to push this drink that like sucks. But trying to get it there is like, I just want to like grab everybody and shake them and be like, do it. I promise you're going to make money. I'm learning that the way the liquor world works is like every month there's new alcohols and rebrands of alcohols. It's like, you go to a distributor or a store and you're like, here's the new things that we're pushing. And I just need those like meetings and those discussions to be about Midnight Bean. I think there's like incentives, you might get an extra bonus or a commission if you sell like this whiskey. And so that's what salespeople focus on. I'm trying to figure out a way to make them like understand what Midnight Bean could be, and that's what this tour is. So we go to Columbus, and as much as it's about meeting, getting, as they call, liquid to lips is the big phrase in the industry, getting people to try it, taste it, sample it, and get hooked on it and like it. As much as it's about that, I also went to one of the sales meetings where they had salesmen, I think, from like all around the area come together, and they have like a little conference and a meeting talking about new products and what business they're trying to do and what they're trying to achieve. So I sat down, or I basically presented in front of the like Columbus or Ohio sales reps for Sazerac and like the distributors and all that, and I just like preached how good this is. I've been drinking it for 15 years. I was never going to make a martini unless it tasted and looked and felt right. And Sazerac nailed it. And I'm just like up there like screaming to them. I'm like, I guarantee you, if liquor store owners put this on the shelves, it will fly off. If you are a bar that doesn't have an espresso machine and doesn't want to, have 4 ingredients being mixed in when you have your 11 p.m. rush, this is for you. If you're a club and you need bottle service, this is for you. If you're used to drink them when you go out and now you're older and you still love a good espresso martini, but you're not going to the bar or the restaurants anymore, you can have it at home. If you are a college kid, it's $19.99. You can shake them up in your room and live like high class, even though you don't have to spend the money or go out to the martini bar. It checks like every box, and I know it in my core. I'm not just saying to say it. I'm not saying it to sell you on it. I mean it. And doing it this weekend was pretty encouraging because, like, everybody, like I said, the salespeople in this presentation seemed to really react. They were asking me questions. What's the history of the 3 beans, and what does it taste like, and like what's the story behind it, the name, all that shit. So like they were really engaged in it. Everybody at the bar, we went to Fours, if you know the Ohio State bar scene. We went to Fours on Friday night. We went to the Library Bar on Saturday. Young people, old people, guys, girls, Midwest dudes like wearing Miller Lite zip-ups, who probably have never drank anything other than beer and whiskey, were like sipping on the espresso martini being like, that's good. Like everybody has the same reaction. They either love it or they go, oh, holy shit. I was super skeptical, thought it was going to be gross because no one's ever had an effective pre-bottled, pre-mixed espresso martini. I think I'm genuinely like the first one to ever do it. There's others on the market. They're all right. Some of them really suck. Some of them are okay. None of them, except for one, foams up and tastes the way this one tastes, feels the way this one feels, and basically is a replica of every high-end bar you've ever gone to or fancy restaurant that makes them, the true, proper way. And so I think it's just going to be like, it's going to take time. Like people understand there's beers and there's beer, wine, and spirits, right? But then over the last 5-10 years, seltzer came along, and it was like this new thing that people needed to almost wrap their head around. And, girls, usually I feel like girls kind of drink those things first and then guys follow. And I think this is another one of them. Like you're just so not in the mind of like, I order an espresso martini at the bar, or I make them at home, or it's a pre-made that like doesn't need anything else. You're just not thinking that way, so you don't think to order it or go buy it or need it or want it. But it's here. And I like, if you're an espresso martini drinker, which there are millions of them now and it's such a fad, this needs to exist and like is the number one. I just need to get like the world. I feel like we're just like a little bit ahead of the curve on that. So we're going on this tour to show it to the business side of things and the consumer side of things. Part of me, I feel like we did great in the Columbus region. People are ordering cases. I went to a liquor store and did a sample. How many times have you been to a liquor store and just like walked by the sample and you're just like, thanks, but no thanks? Or if you take it, you're like, tastes good, but I'm not going to like buy this bottle. We were there for maybe like half an hour, and I sold like 10 bottles to the first 10 people that walked in, that everybody who walked by was like either into it or circled back and was like, all right, I'll try it. And then as soon as they sipped it, they were like, give me a bottle. Like white, black, parents, everybody did it. And And so I just know that it's there. And then at the bar, it was like more of the same. It was like we were mixing up little baby shots, people drinking them as full espresso martinis. And I just like I know it's an interesting, usually the problem was and anything with advertising, some of the stuff we advertise is like, all right, like yeah, that product or service like kind of works, but I'm going to have to really sell you on it. Like this one, I know the usual problem is not the issue. The problem is getting people to know it, getting the business people to buy into it, that I'm hoping will only come with time. And so I did a good job in Columbus, and I think that, I bet you that around the Columbus area, the stores, the distributors, the salespeople are now all going to push it. But it just feels like such a drop in the ocean of like, I can't go to every college in every state. It would become my full-time job. I'd be flying around the country. I'd be shit-faced half the time. So it feels like, how do I get like nationwide adoption? And it's probably going to take a viral moment or the right celebrity drinking it, or maybe it just takes time as the market kind of catches up and people understand that pre-made espresso martinis are now a thing. So I want one, and what's the best one? It's Midnight Bean. But it's definitely like it's starting the process, and I saw how much it worked on that trip, and I was like more inclined to go do more places. But it's just a matter of how do I get it to that mass adoption level. I look at like, Cutwater has been the new one that like blew up and went everywhere. And I was like, why did that happen? And that seems more like it's a party drink that gets you fucked up. And that's why. And so young kids do it and it just boom, like wildfire. And this is not that. This is more like a cocktail to enjoy. So I got to like, how do you replicate that party virality with a drink that's a little more, a little more understated? It's just an interesting problem to try to like solve, and it's the easier problem to solve, but it's still a pretty difficult one that I just pray, man. I just know it has all the makings of the next Pink Whitney or even High Noon or Casamigos or those store or Ryan Reynolds gin or these things that just go. I like genuinely think it could be. We moved 1 million cases this year of Midnight Bean, but it's got to get there. And so knowing something is like really good and just needing to convince the right people is kind of frustrating. It's like, how do I get there? How do I tell the whole world? Oh, that's right. That was great. So we had everything set up. It was like very by the book. It was like go to the sales meeting, and then we have a setup time at this liquor store to do a sample, and then we went to like another store, and then we had the bars at night and the bar in the afternoon. It was all very structured. And I grabbed a case, and I said, we're going to go to a frat and just give them booze. And so that was the one thing we went rogue. I was like, but I know this is like good, So we go out to Columbus. We go on campus. It's parents' weekend. It's homecoming. And we just kind of start walking like the strip of frat houses. And there was one crew of dudes. It was still a little early. It was a night game, so people weren't really out there raging yet. But there was one crew of guys. Was it SIG-Ep, you said? SIG-Ep. Shout out to the SIG-Ep frat. They were outside playing beer die. And I walk up to them. And now this is like a awkward spot for me because, as I described earlier, that 18 to 24 demo ain't what it used to be. If I'm 25 years old and I go to a frat back in the day, they know me, right? Like, they know Barstool. They know me. They're fans. It's pictures. I'm like, holy shit, can't believe it. Nowadays, not so much. So now I just look kind of like an old man walking up to them. Yeah, we were going to go right to the airport. So I had bags. I'm old. I'm carrying this box. They're playing beer die. And I just walk up and I was like, hey, you guys want some booze? That works. Universally will work. First thing I said, are you guys 21? I was like, I'm not trying to go to jail for this. I want to be the guy giving booze to underage people. So made sure they were all of age. And I'm like, do you want free booze? And at that point, they're like, I don't care who this old man is. I don't know why he's got all these bags, but he's giving us booze. So like, all good. So I pull out a bottle. They're like, what is this? I explain it, give them the whole spiel. And then I'm like, here you go. And they're like, the whole case? I'm like, yeah, you can have it. It was like, I felt like Santa Claus. It was like Christmas. And I was like, actually, can I shake one up for you guys? So I go into their frat house. And it's typical frat house look. I loved it. I'm like, do you guys have a shaker by any chance? Like, of course they don't have a fucking martini shaker, but put it in like a Stanley water bottle. I start shaking them up, pour them out. They see the foam. They're like, whoa, what is this? And they slowly start to piece it together. They ask me some questions. I'm like, well, so I work for Barstool and I do this. And they're like, oh, are you that guy? And it's a little bit of like an ego thing where I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm at that level where it's like, oh, are you that guy who did that thing? Like, I used to know who you are, instead of just being like, Dave Portnoy walks on campus, or maybe not Ohio State, but any other campus, it's like they know and they're excited. So it was like awkward, but almost made it better because I was like, if I was really popular in colleges, I could have given them a bottle of piss and they would have been like, this is amazing, man. Like, let's take pictures. Like, thank you so much. So there was no reason for them to like really, fanboy over me or it at all. So it was like a genuine reaction, but it was fun to like walk into a frat house, watch them kind of be like, what is this? Take a sip and be like, oh my God. Then I tell them it's only $19.99 and they were like, oh shit. So that was fun. Being a bartender was fun too. I how many martinis do you think I shook up this weekend at those two bars? I like probably triple digits. I think I made like hundreds of martinis all weekend long. We just had like a bar tab where we were able to basically give them out for free. So I just kept shaking them like nonstop. My hands were like bruised from whacking the shaker and hitting the side to pull it apart. I was spilling everywhere, sweating because it was like 90 fucking degrees. We had a midnight bean ice luge, people drinking on it. Parents were out because it was parents' weekend. A lot of fuck Michigan, fuck Dave because it was Ohio State. It was a great vibe, great scene, and like everybody loved it. Even like off camera, I'd be like, you can tell me the truth. Like, you fuck with it? Everybody loved it. So I just know I'm like sitting on a lottery ticket, and it's like the numbers are right. I hit it, and I like can't like cash it in yet or something. Like that's kind of how it feels. And I know that it should and probably will, but there's just this part of me that's like, if I look back and like Midnight Bean didn't hit for some reason, oh, it's going to be like the biggest missed opportunity of my life, especially knowing that I'm doing it. It's not like a Barstool thing. It's like me. So it doesn't, usually when we do these drinks, it also coincides with a big media spend. So you become like a Barstool partner, and it's like presented by Barstool Sports and the Barstool logo's on it, and it's a company drink. That's not the case here. It's like me. So I don't get that Barstool push or that bump, or I don't have all the personalities co-signing it. So it's really on me to do it. And I do have some influence, but I don't know if I have all of it. So, yeah, we're pushing it out there and just hoping. I told every salesperson, I'm like, there's a bunch of new liquors out there. You can sell the one that is just the company made it and they hope it works out, or you guys can sell the one that has me with like 1 million+ followers, shamelessly shilling for it at every turn. And I am just hoping to God that is enough. We'll see. I would love to just hop in on the time machine, fast forward a little bit, and see if it can get to the promised land where I think it could. Because there's part of me that's like, I'm going to retire on this, and there's part of me that's like, this could just be another case study of like what happens when you have a good product, but it doesn't like reach the masses because of whatever reason, So this is a long, long way to say, give it a try, because everyone who has had it loved it, and if right now, the big issue is I've told all my fans, and a lot of fans want it, but they all say, I can't find it anywhere. And it's this chicken or the egg of like, you want it in stores, but it's not going to be in stores until there's enough people talking about it and drinking it, but they can't talk about it and drink it until it's in stores. So it's this circular thing. So ask your local liquor store owner, ask your bartender to do it. They will order it. Tell them, like, I will buy the bottles, and so will other people. Explain to them that I'm pushing it. If we get there, I will be forever grateful. So thank you to Columbus, Fours, Scott who runs 4s and 3s and 5s, Quinn and the guys over at OSU, at the library bar, all the people at OSU. It was awesome. I don't know what the next stop is, but we got a few more plans. So we're going to try to come to certain cities and certain schools. And, yeah, please give it a shot or ask for it, because I really think that give it a little bit more time. I think pre-bottled espresso martinis are going to be right up there with seltzers and buzz balls and all the other like fad drinks that popped off. I really think espresso martinis pre-mixed will be the next one, and genuinely, truly the best one on the market is Midnight Bean. So it's my very long push for it and storytelling of what went down. But thank you to OSU. Thank you to the Midnight Bean people, and anybody out there who enjoys espresso martinis, give this a shot. It's for you. We'll see you next week, or see you in a couple days for another episode. I think I'm flying solo all week, so any topics you want me to talk about, anything you want to get into, let me know. Send a message, send a voicemail, whatever it is, and I'll see you on Thursday.